Oh, now I've got Sarah coming in. Fabulous. Okay, did that interrupt my recording? Oh no, here we go. Right, so good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining me. I hope you're going to find this session really useful. This session is all about you guys, so please feel free to ask any questions that you want to as we go through the agenda tonight. Now, you can either use the chat or you can just raise your hand or just call out, unmute yourself and ask your question. And also, please don't worry about asking things that are quite basic. I get asked lots of very similar questions, so don't worry about sounding silly with everything. So it's really for you guys just to get the most out of it this evening. So I'm going to run through the basic functions of the Thermomix, how to use it in manual mode, because that is a question that I see a lot that comes up on the forums. It also comes up in the group. How do you use the Thermomix manually just to chop up some onions or saute them? So apologies if I'm covering really basic stuff, but it's better to go right from the beginning because I do find that it does confuse some people. I'm going to go through all the modes as well, and then I'm going to have a look at Cookidoo as well and show you how to add recipes to your folders and also synchronize your online shopping with your online provider. Okay. So, and I'm also going to show you how to take the bowl apart and insert the whisk properly and use the Baroma. Has anybody used the Baroma yet? You can pop that in the chat. It's often one of the accessories that gets the least used. Well, I don't know why, actually. I don't use the Baroma very much, but it is absolutely fantastic for either fermenting bread or steaming salmon and steaming chicken breasts or steaming a whole chicken. And yes, you can fit a whole chicken in here. All right, so I've got a question already. Let's have a little look at that. Okay. Is there a good trick to getting the smell of curry out of the lid? Yeah, I often get asked this actually. I run mine through the dishwasher fairly regularly. There are some cleaning hacks as well involving lemons and bicarbonate of soda. Yeah, so Darren, if I just introduce him, he's actually a professional chef. Darren's saying lemon juice. Yeah, lemon juice can really work. If it's stained yellow as well, I put it outside in UV light. So that will get rid of some of the turmeric stains. Some customers choose to buy themselves a second lid and just keep it for sweet things. So that is an option, and the lids are not too expensive. I think they're around about, but don't quote me on this, I think they're around about £15, something like that. So you've always got that option if you want to keep one lid for savoury and one lid for sweet as well. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to kick off with something that sometimes I forget to show you, which is how to take the bowl apart. So this is really useful for getting the blades out. Now, my bowl is a little bit dirty. I made some bread earlier. So there we go, keeping it real. I upturn the bowl onto a tea towel or a kitchen towel. And you can see there's a little lug here. I just twist and then lift the bowl, the base out, and then the blades drop out like this. To put it back in, I once tried to explain this to somebody going up the A1 when I was driving, and they actually did get it. So that was good, but it's a lot easier when you can see it. So I'm just going to pop the blade back in, then turn it upside down. So sort of just flick it on your wrist, pop the base on, off center, and then just pull it together. Now, for those of you, so Jill, your Thermomix is brand new today. The first couple of times you do this, it's going to be really stiff, and then it loosens off after that. And while we're here, I'll just show you how to put the whisk in. So this sometimes makes people quite anxious because we always say, you have to put the whisk in properly. Otherwise, it's at risk of just pinging out. And then if it gets caught by the blades, it's just going to smash up inside. You'll end up having to chuck everything that's in there. And you'll also have to buy yourself a new whisk. These are only sort of £7 or £8. So to put the whisk in, you just insert it on top of the blades, and then just give it a little twist. I can't do this back to front. And then just give it a little twist. Can you see that little twist? So if I put it on top of the blades and just give it a little twist until it locks in and sits next to one of the blades. It doesn't really matter. You can twist it either way, just as long as it's locked in. Now you will still, what confuses some people is you will still be able to lift it out. But to all intents and purposes, once it's had that little twist, it's locked in. Ah, there we go. Darren's looked it up, lids are £17. Now, it's cunningly something on here, if you can see it, you see it on there. It's got the maximum speed on this whisk to remind you. So you can't use this above speed 4. Again, if it goes above speed 4, it's at risk of pinging out. So don't use it above speed 4. And then for those of you that have got blade covers as well, you'll notice again on the blade cover, I don't know if you can see that this closely. Oh, actually, no, it might be better on that. No, here we go. Wrong camera. You'll see this says maximum speed of 1. So again, you've got that guide on the blade cover to remind you that you can't use it at a higher speed. So to put the blade cover in, there's a little raised bit on the top of it and a recessed bit underneath. So use the raised bit, pop it over the top of the blades and just give it a little twist until it fits down on top of them. Okay. So that's the blade cover. Right, the Varoma unit. So let's pop this in. And so this does seem obvious, but I have actually been asked this. I have had people not use their Varoma successfully because they've got the measuring cup still inserted. So whenever you use your Varoma, you want to remove the measuring cup, pop the Varoma on, and then you've got that hole in the top of the lid which will allow the steam to come up and come through. And then of course you do need the Thermomix lid on top as well to trap the steam. You can use, why am I ringing? Oh, I've done 20,000 steps today. That's why it's my Fitbit. I thought I've had a call coming in. You can put the tray in as well. And so you will make a double level on the Varoma unit. If you're cooking a chicken, obviously you can't put the tray in because it won't fit. I tend to put my chicken breast side down, and I've fitted chickens in here up to about 2 kilos. I think the guidance is about 1.6 kilos. You can fit a bigger chicken in. You might just have to snip the top joints on the leg off, but there's not really any meat on there anyway. Okay, so do all parts of the jug go in the dishwasher? Ah, good question. And yes, I did promise Sharon actually at the start that I was going to talk about that a little bit more. So yes, everything can go in the dishwasher, including this bit with the metal pins. Okay, and what you want to ensure as you get it out the dishwasher, I just get a little tea towel and dry off the pins just to make sure there's no water in them before I reinsert it. But yes, and when I put things in the dishwasher, I always disassemble my bowl because you'll find that you've got a recess here, and if you put it in or fully assembled, you'll just get that dirty water pooling in that recess. So it's much better to have taken the blades out and just pop it in like that. And you don't need to put this base bit in the dishwasher unless it's got plastered in food. I mean, I usually just rinse this off under the tap. But yeah, this base bit does not come into contact with food. So I don't wash it as often as the stainless steel bowl, but these are really high quality. In fact, I found out something quite exciting a few weeks ago. They're actually manufactured by a French kitchenware company called Guy de Grain. And Guy de Grain is really well known for very, very high quality kitchen equipment, beautiful tableware and accessories in France. So again, it really is very, very high quality. I think I've just had another question coming in on a chat. I know, oh, brilliant. Oh, hi, Nina. She's finally made it. Hello. And we've only just started, so that's great. So that's, I think, covered the bowl and the assembly of the bowl. Now what I want to do is just have a look at how to use it in manual mode. Right, so I'm going to take this off, I think, and pop it on my small tripod. Okay, so hopefully you can see, you see that screen? There we go. Hopefully it's not back to front. I might just move my tripod, my laptop out of the way. Hold on, while I'm doing this. There we are. So here's my screen. So these are your 3 dials. Whichever dial is highlighted is the one that this silver selector button will operate. Now, again, I had a question on the group the other day. One of my owners who's had her machine coming up for about 8 months said to me, how do I turn the Thermomix off? Again, that baffled me because it's something I obviously hadn't covered with her. And again, I don't think it's covered in the manual, but you just press and hold this button to turn your Thermomix off rather than waiting for it to power down. It's on a 15-minute delay, so it will power down after 15 minutes. But if you want to shut it down sooner than that, just press and hold that button. So these are our 3 selected dials. So whichever one is highlighted, button will operate. So obviously here the time is highlighted. So if I just turn that round, it's going to give me whatever I choose to put on the clock. Then the temperature goes all the way from 37 up to varoma temperature. So varoma is just above 120. So that is steaming temperature. And if you are using this in manual mode and want to use the varoma attachment to steam with, you will need to use varoma temperature on here. Any other, if the temperature is any lower, it's likely that it's not going to produce enough steam for the varoma to actually work properly. So just be a little bit wary of that. I've had people telling me that they've tried to steam chicken and fish and the food was still raw, and that's because they hadn't set the temperature to varoma. Now, I would always say before you play about with all the manual settings, I would look at a similar recipe in Cookidoo. So you can find lots of very, very similar recipes on there. There's 66,000 of them. So the chances are that you are going to find something on there that's fairly similar to what you want to cook. So I would recommend that you have a look through the recipe and look at the settings that that recipe uses. And then, of course, you can program them in manually and do what it is that you want to do. And then the speed goes from, obviously, I haven't got anything in that, well, only a dirty bowl, gentle stir, all the way around to speed 10. Okay, and if you want to put the blades in reverse for any reason, you just tap this button here. Can you see the little blade icon? Just tap that and it will enable the reverse, and then tap it again and it will disable the reverse. So what you want to make sure is when you're cooking and if you sort of inadvertently catch this screen and you're on a risotto and you inadvertently touch this dial, sometimes, and it has happened to me, you can take it off of reverse. And then the blades will just be operating with the sharp side and you'll end up with a bit of a puree at the end. So just make sure that if you're on a recipe which calls for reverse, that you haven't inadvertently tapped the screen when you're using this speed selector dial. It's very, very easy to do. Right, so if I was doing something like chopping onions, I would usually, so often for my bolognese, I just put all my vegetables in, chop them all up, and then set it to saute. So I do usually between sort of 5 and 7 seconds, obviously no temperature, because I'm just chopping. And then I usually go round to about speed 5. And then if you press that selector button, it will stop it. So if you want to stop it at any point, just press the selector button and it will stop it dead. See, it's gone down to 5 seconds. So again, if I just turn that round, it's counting down. A second I've noticed feels like a very long time when you have a Thermomix. It counts down, and if I want to just stop it and have a look, or I think it's chopped up enough and I'm happy with it, then I press that button and it will just stop it in its tracks. So I chop up my vegetables generally between sort of 5 and 7 seconds, and all those guides are in the Simple Ideas book. They're all at the back of the Simple Ideas book. So if you haven't already had a good look through that book that came with your Thermomix, then do, because often a lot of the questions, again, that I get asked about how to use it manually are all covered in the back of that book. There's some really useful guides on there, and things like the steaming guide. So how long do you steam certain vegetables or chicken or fish? So it's well worth having a look. What else did I want to say about that? I think that's it now. Oh yes. So now if I wanted to go on to saute, so I've chopped up all my vegetables, added some olive oil. If I want to saute, I usually program it, depending on how much is in there, for between sort of 5 and 10 minutes. And I go for about 100 degrees. That's the temperature that most recipes seem to use. And I usually use sort of speed between 1 and 2. And you can put it, if you want to put it onto reverse at that point, you can. But generally, if you're only sort of doing it for about 5 minutes, it would be fine without the blades in reverse. So you may have noticed, if you've touched the blades, you've got 2 sides to the blade. One side is really sharp and one side is blunt. So when the blades spin in a clockwise direction, you're on the sharp side. So you will be doing sort of the chopping, the mincing, the grinding, the grating functions. And on the other side, on the blunt side, so when they go into reverse, they will rotate in an anti-clockwise direction. That's the blunt side. And that is the function that's employed when you're doing things like a gentle stir for risotto, and you don't want to chop or grind what you've got in your Thermomix bowl up any smaller. So that's also one thing to be aware of. So once you're on your home, so this is what we call our home screen. The home screen is the one with the 3 dials on it, the time, temperature, and the speed. To access the automatic modes, you would swipe, that's left, isn't it? Swipe left across the home screen. If you want to go quickly onto your search function, you would swipe the other way, so swipe right. And I think I'm going to have to give a prize to the person who identifies this dish, because I have asked, it looks absolutely delicious, and I have asked so many people at head office to tell me what this dish is, and nobody can tell me. So if anybody can find it out, I will give them a special prize. There we go, that's a challenge for you. So if we swipe again over to the functions, you can click on your scales. That does what it says on the tin, really. It puts your scales on. To reset the scales to 0, so if you have weighed something in and you want to weigh something else in, you just have to press that tare button and it will reset to 0 each time. So, I mean, that's pretty obvious. You can use those scales as well. If you want to put your scales on while it's cooking, I believe you can use the scales up to about speed 3. Let me just have a quick look at the chat. Just double check that I haven't missed anything. I always use varoma temperature for this. Yes, now that's a good point. Darren said he uses the varoma temperature for steaming in both the basket and the varoma dish. I actually now cook my rice using a varoma temperature, because I was finding, I thought it was just slightly underdone. I was still getting crunchy bits at 100 degrees. So I now cook my rice at varoma temperature, and I'm a lot happier with it. So thanks for saying that, Darren. That's a really useful point. Here's the dough mode, which I often call the need function, and people look at me as if I've got a second head, because I refer to it as the need function, because that's effectively what it does, but it is technically called the dough function. So if you are just using it to make some bread and you're not on a guided recipe and you've weighed all in your ingredients, I generally set about 2 minutes on here, between 2 and 3 minutes, but usually 2 minutes. Set 2 minutes, and then I need to press that dial to highlight it, and then just turn the silver knob on the side, and it will knead away. It will start kneading. Okay, doesn't like that because it's got, I think, old dough stuck in the bottom of it. There we are. So that's the dough mode. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, if you haven't made bread in your Thermomix yet, you absolutely have to give it a go. It is so easy, and the results are always brilliant. And we've now started, so lots of people have started to make their own baguettes. We've now got, I don't know if you've noticed, the in-screen video tutorials on here, and I will show you an example of that a little while later. If I don't, Darren or Glynis, if you can just remind me, that'd be wonderful. So we've got turbo mode. That's used for things like chopping nuts or grinding coffee beans, or sort of grinding grains into flour. You can also, so like a really high pressured, high powered pulse on a food processor. I also find it really useful for cleaning off my blades. So after I've made a cake mixture, or if I've got just remnants of what I've been cooking in the bowl, I just give it a couple of blasts. Usually I set it to 2 seconds on turbo. And again, a bit like with the knead function, whichever dial is highlighted, this will operate. So you can switch between 1 and 2 seconds on there. And then if you just click on here, it will just give you a real kind of burst of action. And it's absolutely brilliant for cleaning off blades. It's a bit like having like a centrifuge action. Now, I have also heard on the subject of bread, just going back to bread, it can be a little bit difficult to get the dough out of the bowl, especially if it's sticky. But lots of people swear that if you just lightly grease the bottom of the bowl and the blades before you add the rest of the ingredients in, so just with a little bit of olive oil, but obviously not too much, then it makes the dough a lot easier to extract out the end. I keep meaning to test it and I have forgotten every time I make bread, which is quite an achievement because I do make some form of bread most days. But yeah, this is because I've had 4 children and my brain is addled. But I again, if any customers on here want to test that out and let me know, feedback the results, then I'd be very, very grateful. Okay, so that's the turbo function. Pre-clean. So we've got a new pre-clean, which is really exciting. It's a lot better than the old one. So you'll notice on here, for those of you that might not have used your pre-clean properly, that this clock face, I suppose, or circle is divided into 4 segments. So each of these segments represents a different type of cleaning mode. So if I set it to the first bit, it will just it will treat it as if you've had dough in there. So there's a special program for getting rid of stubborn dough and sort of glutinous contents. So that's quite useful after you've made bread. Obviously you need to put the water in. So if I go back, if I click that little eye, it just gives me the instructions of how to best get it to clean itself. So it suggests that you pour a maximum of 1 litre of water and a little drop of washing up liquid or some vinegar in there before you run the program. Now, I often just cover the blades actually with water, and I usually use boiling water because part of this 8-minute cycle, if you put it onto dough, for example, it usually goes up to about 8 minutes. There we go. Part of that is that it will be heating up the water as well. But if I put hot water in to start with, it just reduces, it will sense that and it will reduce the cleaning time. And yeah, I've just seen somebody recommend not to put too much washing up liquid in. If you've got toddlers around, they will be delighted because you will be making your own bubble machine. There we go. There's another use of the Thermomix. That could be the 28th mode bubble machine if you put too much washing up liquid in there. Yes, it is quite funny. It will generate lots and lots of suds. So that's the dough. If you twist it around twice, you get to universal, which is the one I use most often. If you go 3 times, just 3 little twists, you get the fat or caramel setting. And then if you go 4 little twists, this can be quite useful for cleaning a browned base. But there is, if you're on my Facebook group, there is quite a good hack actually for cleaning your Thermomix using eggshells and lemon. You can, if you've got, if you save your eggshells from if you've made cakes, it's quite a good way to put your eggshells in there. I think you spin them really fast. They all shatter and it's brilliant for cleaning anything like a brown base. And then you can add either lemon juice or bicarbonate of soda and heat it up gently. And there are instructions on my group for that. So have a look for that and give it a go. I've not done it, but I've had a lot of people say it's really useful. And then we've got the blender. So this will automatically detect what you have in there and adjust the time. Or it's not adjust the time. In fact, it used to adjust the speed at which you blend, but I think again, it's got little divisions going around that circle. So I think you've got sort of different, there you go, different speeds that you can use. So if you just again, click on that I button, it tells you exactly how to use that particular function. So blending will start slowly at speed 5 and increase automatically to speed 6 to 8. And it does seem to automatically detect the contents, the level of contents, or the quantity of contents that you've got in there, and the sort of the weight of them, and then it will adjust the speed to suit. So it's quite a clever one, and it will come on I think you're all TM6 owners in here, but it will also come on when you do guided recipes like hummus. So the blend function will come, and often I get asked with TM5 owners why they can't use the new hummus recipe, and it's because the TM5 doesn't have an automated blend setting. You can still get it to blend, but you would have to do that in manual mode using from the home screen, using the dials, and set it for sort of speed between 5 and 8, depending on what you've got in there. So a lot of the TM6 to the TM5 functions, or the TM6 functions, can be used in the TM5. It's just that there aren't the specific buttons for them. You have to sort of program it manually, which just adds a slight level of kind of complication to it. Anyone use the egg boiler mode yet? I can't see anybody because I spotlighted everybody, but you can pop, spotlighted me rather, but you can pop it in the chat. Egg boiler mode, fantastic. You can determine exactly how you want your eggs. So again, if you press that little icon, it will tell you exactly how to use this mode. Place 2 to 6 eggs. They have to be cold from the fridge. So all these timings will be worked out on eggs that are cold from the fridge. So if you've got room temperature eggs, you will need to play about to find the perfect time. And you may end up overcooking them, because obviously there'll be some energy and time used in taking those eggs from the cold temperature up to the required temperature. So try and use it will try and remember to put your eggs in the fridge if you're going to use this mode. It does require a little bit of forward planning, and then you can just choose soft, medium, how you want your yolks: medium, partly soft yolk, medium hard, firm yolk but not dry, or hard boiled. And you put them, I believe the blades switch off completely, so you just put the eggs directly in the TM6 bowl. So you don't need to put them in the simmering basket. You don't need to put a blade cover in. The blades don't come on in this mode. And then it will automatically, once you've told it which option how you want your eggs cooked, it will automatically set the time for you. So there we're going for soft. And then if you turn it, give it a couple of clicks, it's medium, soft, and then 3 clicks, it's medium. There you go, you get the picture. Then we got the kettle mode. It's not something I use a lot actually, but in fact my children use it to heat milk up to 85 degrees to make hot chocolate with. So that's quite a nice thing to do. And also it's a function that I use when I'm away in the motorhome, so we don't have to take a separate kettle with us. But you can, again, whichever dial is highlighted, so here's my temperature dial, you can just alter the temperature down and tell it to bring water to a certain temperature. So this is quite useful to put on if you're going to sous vide, because sous vide, you would set a specific temperature for a specific time, and you would need the water at that temperature. So before you sous vide, you can put your water in, and then you can just adjust. You usually sit somewhere around sort of 55 and 60 and sous, or maybe 55 and 65 and sous vide. And then you pop your water in and you just click start, and it will heat the bowl contents up to that temperature. Okay, so let's just let that release. Then we've got a warm-up mode. So it really does what it says on the tin. One thing I would suggest with the warm-up mode is that you insert the whisk. So pop your whisk in, because that just seems to encourage a more even reheat and more even cooking. And then thicken mode is absolutely fantastic for things like thickening gravy, or making a bechamel sauce or hollandaise. Again, usually you would use this in conjunction with a guided recipe. So you would look up the particular type of sauce that you want to cook, and then the thicker mode would come on as part of that guided recipe. You've got the rice cooker. Now, I actually tend to cook rice on using this. I steam it inside in the simmering basket, because I just think it creates a really lovely fluffy grain. But you can use the rice cooker as well. To use the rice cooker, you would need to find, there's a rice cooker collection on Cookidoo. So if you search the collections and have a look at the rice cooker collection, that will give you, for different types of rice and different types of grains, the cooking time. So you would just need to have a look at the cooking time for what you're trying to cook. And then it will automatically, I guess it does, I don't know what it thinks it's cooking now, but it's automatically programmed for about 30 minutes here. But if you're on a guided recipe through a collection, it will walk you step by step through what you want to use. And again, I think there's instructions on here. So use this mode to cook parboiled long grain rice, white basmati rice, bulgur rice, or other grains, always used with simmering basket instead of measuring cup on the mixing bowl lid. Okay, so that's quite important actually, because I've not used this mode, or I think I might have used it once a very long time ago. Let me just go and find my simmering basket. It's quite helpful. I think I used it, in fact, about this time last year for my son's birthday, when I cooked him a Chinese meal and he had all his friends around. It's useful for larger quantities of rice, but I find if you're just cooking sort of 250 to 300 grams of rice, you're better off doing it following the steamed rice recipe, using the simmering basket inside the Thermomix bowl. So the guidance on the rice cooker is to pop the simmering basket on top. So you'll notice there's like a little recess on the lid, and you can put the simmering basket on top. That's what it's designed for. And the TM5 simmering baskets never used to have a lid on. So I tend to open the lid when I'm using the simmering basket, because it lets a lot more steam out. And I find that certainly if you're using it when you're making things like tomato ketchup and you want the sauce to reduce, or anything that requires a sauce to reduce, I would always open the lid. So I think there's just been a couple of questions. Let me have a quick look, or points. I've used the egg mode, love the egg mode, fabulous. I've lost these new functions. It seems the software is updated. I don't think it's related, Lolita, to your Cookidoo subscription. I don't know why you'd have lost those functions, but it isn't related. So I think you will need to go back to customer services and ask them, or ask your advisor for clarification on that. Darren says, yes, Cookidoo subscriptions shouldn't affect functions. The cumin rice recipe on Cookidoo is fab. But there we go. Yeah, I've got quite a few customers. Does that one use the simmering basket, Glyn, or the rice mode?
The simmering basket.
Oh, it uses the simmering basket. Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. We've just had it tonight, actually, with the butter chicken. It never fails. It's fabulous. It's so light and fluffy. It's great.
Oh, fabulous. Oh, brilliant. I'll definitely have to give that one a go. I think you said that before, actually. And then let me just point you back on there. So we don't stop there. We've got more functions. If we swipe left again, we've got the fermentation mode for yogurt. So again, if people have got questions about yogurt, then do fire away, because it's something I get a lot of questions over. The recipe I love for yogurt is this one. If you're going to use yogurt on your Thermomix, let me go into my recipes, and I think it's in my bookmarks now. Got loads of random stuff in here. I must sort it out. But I'm sure the creamy vanilla yogurt is in here. Oh, come on, it goes back up to the beginning. If I scroll down, this is the trouble when you start adding loads of things to your favorites, is then it becomes difficult to find. Here it is, this creamy vanilla yogurt. So this is what uses the fermentation function. So if you just press start cooking, what you have to do, I'm just going to ignore that, is you put in a litre of milk, and I always use UHT when I'm making yogurt because I just think it gives a slightly creamier finish. Also, I've heard if you do use UHT milk, you don't need to heat the milk up and then allow it to cool, but I still do that because I usually put cream in as well. So I put my UHT milk in, then some vanilla, and then you heat it up to 80 degrees. You take the lid off and allow it to cool in the bowl. So it's great this time of year. I just put it in the garden if it's not raining, so it cools down really quickly. Do that. Add about 55 grams of natural yogurt, or just any yogurt that you've got left over from a previous batch. As long as it's got live cultures in it, will work. I double the milk powder, so I use about 100 grams of milk powder here. And then you can increase or reduce the sugar as you want to. Again, these are just guides. So guided recipes are just guides. So if you want to leave out a certain ingredient, or if you want to increase it or reduce it, you can. That will apply to every recipe apart from those on sugar stages mode. So you cannot amend any recipe on sugar stages. So if you're doing anything involving heating up sugar, so making honeycomb or making caramel, the ingredient quantities have to be exact to the recipe, otherwise it won't run for you. So then you just mix it up for 5 seconds, divide it into your jars, rinse the mixing bowl, put some water into the mixing bowl, add a bit of lemon juice, and then you put your Varoma dish into position. So what you need to do is then you put your jars with your Varoma dish into, so let me put your yogurt. So there's my Varoma dish, and you put the yogurt jars. I'm just going to get one. Oh, here it is. Here's one. Some coconut yogurt that I made, but didn't really set properly. You can see it's still quite runny. So you put all your jars in there, and then pop the lid on. And then you can see now this is what fermentation mode looks like. So it's preset for 10 hours, 70 degrees, and then all you do is just click start and fermentation will come on. So that's how you make yogurt, and it's ever so easy and really cheap and easy to do. So I'm just going to press home there. So if I go back to fermentation, if you know what you're doing, so now you've seen that run, you can alter the time so that you can go up to, I think it's about 12 hours on fermentation mode manually, and you can go down to any time that you like, but I usually set mine for about 10 hours, about 70, and then just click start. So that is also really useful actually for making bread, or not, well, yes, making bread, I suppose, fermenting bread. But interestingly, if you're short on time and you've got one of these silicone mats, or just for something very similar, it doesn't have to be a Thermomix one, you can put your dough on the mat. So just, let me go and grab some dough. I've always got dough around. Here we go. You just pretend this dough is not in a plastic bag, okay? So this is, once you've kneaded your dough in here, it will come out looking like this. Obviously, I've just put it in a plastic bag because I'm storing it in my fridge. You pop your dough in the silicone mat, and then you can just sort of wrap it up like that. And such a big kitchen, but I never seem to have any space around where I'm working. And you just pop it in. Let's just, I'm going to pop it that way. That would be better. I'm not doing this very well. There we go. Pop it into the Varoma. Wrapped in a silicone mat. Doesn't have to be a Thermomix one, can be any one. And then pop it on there. And then you can program it. Obviously, you don't really want to do it for 8 hours. But you can do it for about, oh, that's a minimum of an hour on there, but you can stop it after about 30 minutes. So you can ferment your bread in the same way as you ferment your yogurt. Just click that. Once you've got, well, you have to have water in here, don't forget. And then it will just create a lovely, humid, sort of moist environment for that bread dough to rise. So that works really well. And actually you can put, bread tins in here. So if you have a small bread tin that fits in here, you can ferment bread loaves in here. So the American farmhouse white recipe will use that process. So you put your bread, once it's made, into a bread tin, and then you put it back on top of here with some water in here, and then you can ferment your bread before you bake it. It takes about 35 minutes, and then you bake it straight away. So it's a really quick recipe, and it's absolutely fabulous. So you will need to remove your filters to find that recipe, because that's not a UK recipe, and our filters default to UK recipes. So if you go into filters, and I might just show you that actually very quickly here on your search, you can do this in exactly the same way on the Cookidoo app. So if you just click on filters, and we are hoping this year that they're going to sort this out for us so we don't have to do it every time. Right, I just want my keyboard to disappear now. Oh, for goodness sake. Here we go. If I scroll down, and I want to take off that UK filter and put on that English filter, and then it will find a lot more recipes. So I think it's called, if I just pop on farmhouse, there it is, farmhouse white sandwich bread. That's the one that is absolutely, it's a fabulous recipe. So I always recommend, again, if you're having problems with bread, try that recipe. It is really good. And yes, you can, as long as your bread tin sits in the broiler, you can ferment in there. And if it doesn't, if you've got a bigger bread tin, you don't have to ferment in there. You can just cover it with a little bit of grease cling film and leave it at room temperature, but it will just take a bit longer until it's ready to bake. So that's that. And then final recipe, so we've got a slow cooker. Again, I would sort of recommend with a slow cooker that you follow a guided recipe when you're experimenting with it for the first time. It's not something, I don't do a lot of slow cooking, so it's not something I've done. But again, you've got that little information screen on there to tell you, you know, what are the important points you need to be aware of. But there are there's quite a few slow cooker collections on there now on Cookidoo. So I would have a look at a similar sort of recipe, look at and understand the process, and then apply it. If you want to cook your own sort of slow cooked recipe, I would apply the basic principles from a guided recipe, and then find out, you know, how to program it manually. And then the sous vide, if you are unsure about sous vide, it basically turns your Thermomix into a giant temperature controlled water bath. You can, we did a Valentine's cookery class a couple of weeks ago, and I did some sous vide steaks. So that's on the YouTube channel. If you want to have a look at how sous vide is done in Thermomix, I would recommend that you have a look at the YouTube channel for that cookery class, because it will walk you through it step by step. But the basic principle is you would need to have the blade cover in there. You put a litre of water in there, and then you would normally cook something for between sort of 30 minutes and an hour if you're doing maybe a steak. And then you would set the temperature to whatever temperature you're cooking to. I do my steak around 55 and then click start. So the food, importantly, has to be in a vacuum sealed pouch or bag. If you use a butcher, you can ask them often to vac seal your fillets or your steak for you when you buy them. But the only problem with that is obviously if you want to sear it beforehand, or if you want to add some aromatics into the bag, you can't because it's already vacuum sealed, but you can just use a press seal bag for that. So let me just show you. I usually use just one of these Ziploc bags. I put my food in, and then I use what they call the water displacement method. So look it up on Google if you're unsure what it is, but you fill a bowl with water, and then you lower the bag into the water. You get the water to expel all the air. So I would normally just leave a little gap, put my food in, leave a little gap like that, a little hole. And then once you lower the bag into the water, it's going to expel all the air, and then you can just seal it up. But have a look on Google. There'll be plenty of tutorials to show you how to do that. And also I covered it on that cookery class, on the Valentine's themed cookery class. So if you're unsure, have a look at that on the YouTube channel. So they're all the functions. Just a few things to show you on the settings. This is a really important one. So this is, I found this, if I go back to my main menu, got 3 lines there. If you go to settings, you can scroll down, go to sounds. You can take your volume down to low and take the duration down to 10 seconds. So otherwise that will drive you mad, the end tone beeping away for 15 minutes. Well, some people actually don't mind it, but it drives me bonkers. So it's some of them are usually, I think the factory settings are about, oh, it's now 5 minutes. It used to be 15 minutes and that was just a nightmare, but it'd be even worse if it was unlimited until it powers down. So I just take that to 10 seconds and put the volume on low. And then you can have a play about with the melody as well. So you can choose your melody, which is nice. You can just personalize it a little bit to you. And then put the volume of the next button. You can set that to how you want it so it doesn't click at you really loudly. So that's useful. If you want to put your scales onto imperial measurements, then you can switch them over there and then switch them back to metric mode. But if you're using any recipes through Cookidoo that require those imperial settings, it will automatically switch those scales over for you. Sometimes you might need to do a factory reset. You will just lose those volume settings, but you won't lose any of the information that is stored on Cookidoo. So don't think you're going to lose all your folders because that's stored on Cookidoo. What you will lose is this recently cooked list. See on here, you've got your recently cooked list. That will be wiped, but everything else, so all of these recipes will be restored because they are actually stored on your Cookidoo account and not locally on the hard drive of the Thermomix. So on the occasion, and it does happen, I've had to factory reset my machines a couple of times, not recently, I have to say, but it does happen occasionally. Don't worry about having to do that. It sounds much more serious than it is. So just go back into settings, just make sure I've covered everything. There we are. And yeah, and make sure your country region is set to the UK, which it should do if you've got a UK Cookidoo account. If you're using the friend, so if you've got the bundle this February with the Thermomix and the Thermomix friend, you will need to just switch on your Bluetooth so that your Cookidoo will talk to the friend, but you do that again through the settings. But we will do a separate session on the Thermomix friend. I don't think I've got anybody on here that's got a friend yet. So I will try and do a separate session on the Thermomix friend in a few weeks' time. Once I've got my head around it, because I've actually got one sat in my garage, but it hasn't been taken out of the box yet because I've got 3 Thermomixes, so I really don't have a need for it. But I feel like I should take the plunge and so that I can show you how to use it. So then all that we need to just have a quick look at is Cookidoo. This is our recipe screen. So if I go back to the home screen and click on the 3 lines, it brings up your recipes and settings. So in my recipes, you have got access to any recipes that you've bookmarked, and then the creator collection. So these are the folders that you create through Cookidoo, and you name what you can create any folder that you want, and you can name it whatever you want. And then the saved collections, which are these are the Thermomix created collections. So these are the cookbooks that Thermomix put together for us to have a look at and to save onto our machines, or for access onto the machine. So there's lots of really interesting collections. And I would just recommend that you spend some time sitting down with a cup of tea or a glass of wine and looking through Cookidoo, because that is how you will get the most out of your machine, is to have a good bank of Cookidoo recipes that you find, you come across. And that again is why the Thermomix Whiz customer group on Facebook is so good, because we share lots of really interesting stuff. Customers will share things that they've cooked, and also I share a lot of things that I come across on my travels around Cookidoo. And yes, I probably spend far too much time looking at Cookidoo, but often when I have customers that say, you know, they feel like they're not getting the use out of it, or that they're a little bit stuck in a recipe rut, and I say to them, well, how much time do you spend on Cookidoo? Have you had the time to sort of sit down and have a look through it? And invariably the answer is no. People sort of get, again, even with a Thermomix, stuck in a little bit of a rut, and they go back to things that they know because they rely on them and they are quick and easy to do. But actually, if you just put a little bit of investment and time into looking at Cookidoo, you will again get a lot more out of the machine. So on that note, let's come over and have a look at Cookidoo. So hopefully I can share my screen on here. In fact, before I do that, I'm just going to have a quick look and see if I've got anything else in the chat. What size jar do you recommend to buy for the yogurts? Yeah, so the ones I bought actually on Amazon, I had a quick look yesterday. They were 140 ml, but they're out of stock. They're a brand called Recon, I think, REAKEN. And they're lovely, really sweet little sizes, actually. Oh, Michelle's okay. Yes, Michelle, I'd forgotten that you'd got your February offer. Yes, so you've got a friend. And don't forget videos. I won't forget videos. That's a good point. Right, let's bring you back to here before I screen share. Videos. What would I do without my team? Okay, so let me show you the inbuilt videos in one of the Cookidoo recipes. So I don't have a definitive list, I'm afraid, to give you of which recipes do this, but I know for sure the baguette one does. So we'll have to put together a little bank of the recipes as we come across them that have these on-screen tutorials. But if we press start cooking, I'm just going to quit my recipe. I'm just going to click all the way through that recipe. Okay, now here we go. So can you see now you've got a play button? If you play that there, it will show you exactly how to shape that dough. So there you go, you've got your dough, it's nicely risen. That makes it look really easy, doesn't it? Lovely and easy. There you go. So that's how you shape a baguette. So there's quite a few recipes on there now with those inbuilt videos. Right, I'm going to come out of there, and then I am just going to, oh, brilliant. Because so Darren has found, I think that looks like he's found a page which shows all of the video tutorials, which is fab. Okay, so share screen. So I'm just going to share the Cookidoo screen with you on here. So hopefully you can see my screen now. There we are. So I won't go into this in too much detail now, because I know a lot of you are sort of quite experienced users, but I just want to make sure you know how to sort of search for collections. I just want to move my attendee list out the way. So to search, I always use, rather than searching Cookidoo here, which is very, very tempting. Have we got any answers yet on what recipe is on this home screen? I keep looking up. There's definitely butternut squash in there, and I'm sure there's some chicken or some fish. And that looks like some sort of meatballs, but I just cannot, for the life of me, work out what this is. So yes, prize to the first person that tells me what this recipe is. So rather than searching for a recipe in this toolbar here, which won't bring you up many results, I always use that search function there. Just let me pull my chat up on here so I can see. I have to leave. Oh wow, Lolita, it's past 12 midnight here in the UAE. Thank you, Lindsay, Darren, and everyone for the response. Bye-bye. Okay, so if you've already left, have a good night's sleep. So now you can search Cookidoo here. Now because I'm on a laptop, the easy way to take off a filter is to just click here. But if I do this, can you see we've got a United Kingdom filter highlighted here? If I do this, I'm not going to search for all the English recipes. I'm going to search for all the recipes in all the different languages. So there we go. We've now got 67,399 results. That's quite a lot to wade through. And it might not necessarily be in your language. So what I'm going to do is just scroll down and click on that English filter again. And there we go. So we've got over 8,000 recipes in English. And this is how I find lots of things. I go down rabbit holes on Cookidoo on searches, and I'll put in keywords, and then it'll bring loads of really, interesting looking recipes up. So what I was mentioning about the collections, if you want to change, at the moment we're searching at the recipe level, but if you want to search the collections, oh look, there's a macaron collection. Now I hadn't seen that one before. So these are all the cookery books. So there's over 4,500 English language collections on Cookidoo, and this will just really now for you be a case of taking some time to have a look through them. But I can tell you for now, I am going to, I know what this will be. This is because the filters work slightly differently in collections. So on here, I can't select English. I have to select Australia. Let's put in Canada, although Canada doesn't have many results. It's not one of our biggest markets. Let's select Australia, Canada, and then don't forget to put the UK and the US. Now that will filter, so it's brought it down to just over 500. My macaron collection has disappeared, so I'm going to have to go back and find that in a minute. But these are all the collections, so the cookery books that Thermomix put together. Now, there are some amazing things on here. So there's only 500 of them, so you could easily have a quick flick down and have a look at them. So there's some really useful stuff that I can recommend. Now I'm going to have to get one of these because Darren said this book, it looks insane. So let's have a little look which one. I don't know which one will be the English version or the UK version, but it doesn't really matter. So I can click on that and then hopefully I can save it somewhere, or do I need to go back? I don't actually often use it on a laptop. I usually do it on my phone, so I'm not quite sure how to save that. Somebody's one of my team. Oh, there's Sarah. Hello, Sarah. I don't know how to do it. Can I save that somehow to my? Oh, I know why. Because it does not think I'm logged in. It must think I'm logged in. Oh well. I don't know why it's not letting me save it, unless it's lost my login. Let me have a quick look at my account. Nope, I'm there. Right, let me just go back to, there's the save button. I was just being temporarily silly. Here we are. So if I want to save that to my recipe folders, there's a big green save button there and you click save. I haven't even had a drink for 6 weeks, so I can't blame it on the wine. There you go. I tell you, if having children just shrinks your brain. So that tells me it's saved to my own recipe collection. And then if I want to remove it, I just click on there to remove it. So Darren's brighter than me, said I'm not logged in, but I've just, anyway, it seemed to remember me after a while. So there's some really lovely looking recipes there. And if you click, you see each recipe's got 3 dots on it. You can either put it on to cook today, you can bookmark it, or you can add it to a collection. So that looks really nice, that one. I'm going to add that to one of my created collections. So I'm going to add it to my puddings collection. Okay, and then same with this one. I'm going to put it in my own folder because that looks really good. That looks just like something I would cook. So again, that's going into my puddings folder. Okay, so let's just go back to those collections. And I mean, you can scroll down and you will just save what interests you and the sort of things that you like to cook. That looks like quite a good mode. That one, I haven't seen that one before, fermentation with a TM6. So you can make your kimchi, red onions, and sauerkraut. Oh, I haven't seen this one, the coconut milk yogurt, walnut fresh cheese, and whey soda bread. Wow. Right, I'm going to add that to my cheese collection, actually. So you can even make cheese in your Thermomix. I mean, there's so much to do. So let's just shove that in my cheese while I see it. And then I'm just going to save that as well. So let me show you when I go back to my recipes, and now these will appear also on my TM6 screen, because my TM6 screen is an absolute replica of Cookidoo. If I go to my saved collections, both of those will be somewhere in there. I can't think what one was called. Let me just see if was it Antonio Bashir, or does it go down to the bottom? Let's have a look at fermentation mode. There it is. So my fermentation with TM6 is there. So there we are. So my collections are all stored under my recipes. And then if you want to have a look at your shopping list, so if you go to my week, and you can add on any recipes that say I was going to, this is already on my planner, but you've got little 3 dots on the side of any recipe on Cookidoo, and you can add it to your shopping list. You can cook it, you can select cook today, and that will put it in your planner for today. It will also, it will ask you if you want to cook it on another day, so you can sort of schedule all your recipes as well. And you can add it to your shopping list. So I'm thinking, let's put that one on the shopping list, add to the shopping list. So you can see now I've got my shopping list on here. And if I want to, I can have a look at the ingredients, and it will organize it by category. It will default to category, but if you just click on here, you can see it at a recipe level, which I think is quite helpful. Because I like to see what the recipes look like and what the ingredients. But again, if you have it by category, any duplicated ingredients will be obvious to you, and you can just remove them. Now, if you've already got something, you can just click on here, get rid of it. Okay. So yeah, I've got cheese, I've got butter, I don't need that. So you can amend anything, you can reduce it, or not reduce it, you can completely take it off. And then you can add any additional items that you want to. So let's just say, okay, if I want to buy some foil, I'm going to add on foil. So that's going to be added to my shopping list. So it means that you can put on non-grocery items or any other items that are not featured on the recipes that you've selected. And then you go to order ingredients. So let's just click on order ingredients. And it will ask you to choose your store. So you can just click on, let's click on Asda. Oh, didn't like that, did it? What's going on? There we go. I think I just need to click on that arrow. So it will tell me that if I buy all of those at Asda, I'm just going to get wherever I put the toolbar, it just is in the wrong place. I can't actually see now because I've got my toolbar in the way. There we are. Let's pop it up there. If I'm going to buy that at Asda, it's going to cost me £76. And you can swap out for other ingredients as well. So if you don't want branded products, you can always select some of your supermarket own brands. Then if you change your store, you can go and have a look at what it would cost at Waitrose. And that's what it would cost you at Waitrose. So you can play about here and just compare store prices. And then it's not a function that I use because I'm quite old school when it comes to shopping and food, and I really like to go to the supermarket myself. But my understanding is, I don't know if Glynis is still on here, she might have left. And Glynis, if you've used this function, or if any customers have used this function, my understanding is you just need to have a delivery slot booked at the supermarket, and then you can add it to your delivery slot. I think it's quite obvious what to do. So hopefully that's showed you a little bit of Cookidoo. Let's just close that down so I can come out of there. No, oh, Glynis hasn't used it. Now, I must admit, I really like going and having a good old poke around the supermarket, especially at the moment. It's just nice to get out of the house. So anything that you add to your weekly planner will pop up under your week. And again, this is what it looks like, the interface on your Cookidoo account through your Thermomix screen. I'll send the husband, yeah, good point. So anything that you have saved in your Cookidoo account on the app or through the website will also synchronize with your screen on your Thermomix without you having to sync it yourself. So let's see back in. So if I just search for a quick recipe on here, in fact, I don't need to search. I'm just going to, this is a great recipe, this Korean fried chicken. If people haven't done that already, then do have a play with it. I've done the fried tofu version as well. It's absolutely delicious. So can you notice these little 3 dots on the side here? You can either select cook today, you can bookmark it, add to collection, add to my week, or add to shopping list. So there's lots of options there for you. So if you want to cook it today, or I'm not going to cook it today, let's add it to my week. So say I'm going to pop it on for tomorrow. I just click the 16th of February and then save it. So then it will appear in my week for tomorrow. There it is, it's already there. So really, really clever. And these are all the things that we're doing at the cookery class on Saturday, actually, doing lots of different gluten and dairy-free recipes. So if you're interested in that sort of cooking, then do by all means register for the class on Saturday. And then one final thing I wanted to show you. Let me just stop that share. Has anybody got any questions on Cookidoo? Have you found it sort of quite intuitive to use? It really is just about having a play. The only other thing I would just mention to you is if you go to your Cookidoo account, if you ever get given a voucher for a Cookidoo extension, so you would get a voucher normally for hosting a demo, or if you refer customers to us, then we can give you a little sort of referral gift as a thank you. So if you are given a voucher, you would just go into your Cookidoo account. You have to do this through the website. You can't do it on the app. And then just click on the vouchers, and then you can add your voucher code in there and just click on redeem. Okay, so just remember, you can't do it through the app. You have to do it on the website. And I think if you go down to Explore as well, you've got this really nice sort of introductory section. And it will select recipes that it thinks you'll be interested in, either from stuff you've using kind of stuff that you've looked at in the past as a model. So it will find you other recipes that you've looked at or you've cooked. So it thinks, and it's got this kind of completely wrong for me at the moment because I'm on a sort of a plant-based diet. But of course, I do look at a lot of other recipes for the family. So it's pulled out some pulled pork buns and gyros with tzatziki as well. So that's the sort of thing. It's well worth having a look. I mean, if you're a new customer, obviously you haven't built up a browsing history yet. But the more you use Cookidoo, the cleverer it gets, and the more things it will suggest for you, and the more you will find. So it will show you the latest recipes. Then it will show you what has been most cooked in the UK over the last week, which is really interesting. And then there's some lovely food articles as well for you to have a look at. So there are some really lovely things. I always think it's worthwhile spending a bit of time on Cookidoo and really using everything on here that they have to offer you, because this is how you find out about new recipes and inspire yourself constantly to use the Thermomix to its full potential. So it's well worth a look. And then the final thing I just wanted to show you, so if I stop my share on that laptop there, the final thing I wanted to show you is if you are in a recipe, and actually I can do it on this screen, you might have noticed the 3 little dots here. So at any time during a recipe, you can call up. I hope that's not too much of a glare on that. Now you can probably, I don't know if you can just see that. On here, you've got recipe details, scales, and cancel recipes. So you can click up your recipe click on your recipe detail. Not going to like that. Why does it not like that? Oh, it's maybe because I'm on a video. Maybe it just doesn't like that. Yeah, there we go. And you can just click that little down arrow and you can have a look through that recipe. So if you want to know what's coming next and it's cooking away and you think, oh, I'd just like to have a quick look at what, you know, what's coming next, just go to recipe detail and then it will bring up this screen. And then to go back into the recipe exactly where you were, just press continue. You can also put the scales on at any point as long as it's not above speed 3.5, something like that, I think. And then you can cancel the recipe. So if at any time you decide to come out of the recipe and press the home button, you've got that little green tab there, which is like a bookmark. So you can press that and it will take you back into the recipe at exactly the same point you've left off. So that can be really helpful. If you just want to come out and have a quick look at something else, you can get back into the recipe using that bookmark function. So you don't have to think, oh, where am I in the recipe? And that, I think, have I covered everything? So Sarah and Darren, who obviously advisors and use their Thermomix a lot. Is there anything else that you think I haven't mentioned? Say it now. Or has anybody got any questions? That would be, I'm happy to answer. I know we've sort of dealt with a lot as we go along, but I think I'm just going to stop recording now. So let's stop recording.